Tonight on News Nation Prime, a manhunt is underway in Georgia after 4 people were killed in a shooting rampage outside of Atlanta. Police calling it an active shooter situation. We're live with more details on the search for the killer. And the man accused of being the Long Island serial killer now under arrest. How a pizza crust and his wife's hair were used to track him down. What we know about the man police are calling a demon. Missing in Birmingham. Police say a 25-year-old woman vanished after she called 911 to check on a child on a freeway. I'll be speaking to her mother about her strange disappearance and where she may be. Plus, the candidates are shelling out top dollar as ad spending rises above $500 million in the second quarter. We're digging into the numbers. Wings of Love. A man used the help of an entire airplane to pull off this proposal. And she said yes. I'll be speaking to the two lovers about this viral moment.
Live from News Nation headquarters, this is News Nation Prime.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Nick Smith. We begin with breaking news. Police capturing dangerous fugitive Michael Burham just moments ago in Pennsylvania. Burham, a self-taught survivalist with military training, skills that helped him evade authorities for 9 days until he was caught today. Correspondent Emily Finn is live in Warren, Pennsylvania. Emily, this is a tense situation finally coming to a close. What do we know right now?
Hey, good evening to you, Nick. That's right. We are closely tracking these breaking developments in Warren. We'll have all the full details here very shortly. But what we do know right now is that the Pennsylvania State Police have confirmed that they captured Michael Burham in the northeast part of the state. Now, we do have some sources here on the ground that are telling us that he was caught on Jackson Run Road. Now, we know that Burham was facing multiple charges for arson, kidnapping, and burglary in Pennsylvania. He's also the prime suspect in murder and rape cases across the New York border in Jamestown, and there's no doubt he'll be facing additional charges for his most recent escape here. It was a massive search to track him down, with officials from federal, state, and local agencies assisting in this now concluded manhunt. We're hearing from our sources discussions are happening as to where Burham should be taken. Some officers feel that it would be symbolic to take him back to the jail where he had originally escaped, but others are expressing some concerns about that choice. We do know that ultimately it will be up to the judge to have the final say on that decision, Nick. And we are expecting an update from the Pennsylvania State Police to take place here at 7:30 Eastern. So make sure that you're staying tuned to News Nation as we bring you the full details, like I said, very shortly here, 7:30 Eastern.
Emily, so many questions. I know you will be at that press conference this evening, but so many questions. Should they take him back to where he escaped from? Does he have cohorts there that may help him again? So many questions, and I know that you'll be digging for all of those answers. Emily Finn, live for us tonight in Warren, Pennsylvania. Emily, thank you. We're tracking more breaking news outside of Atlanta. A manhunt is underway for a man who allegedly shot and killed 4 people in Hampton, Georgia. This is the man police are searching for right now. They say the shooting happened this afternoon. Now, Jorge Ventura has been tracking the story. Jorge, I know that community. It's southeast of Atlanta. My mother's family is from that area. It's really rural. People are not used to this kind of activity.
Yeah, that's right, Nick. It actually really shocked the local residents there. It's a community of around 8,000 people. But right now, the suspect has been identified by the police. His name, a man by the name of Andre Longmore. Authorities are saying that he is armed and dangerous. Take a look at his mugshot here. News Nation receiving that mugshot earlier this afternoon. Then Henry County Sheriff's Office say that the search for Longmore is an all hands on deck situation. That involves law enforcement in the area, including the Georgia Bureau of Investigation and the Metro Atlanta Police Department. Authorities say he shot and killed 3 men and a woman this morning in the small town of Hampton, Georgia. That's nearly 40 minutes outside of Atlanta. Now, investigators are trying to figure out what led to this chaotic shooting. There's no motive identified just yet. They believe there were at least 4 different shooting locations within close proximity. The victim names have yet to be released. Authorities say the 40-year-old gunman was last seen in a black 2017 GMC. Now, tonight, they're offering $10,000 for any information leading up to his arrest. Now, Longmore is a resident of Hampton, and authorities are asking the public to stay away from that shooting area in that Hampton area and are saying that that right now Longmore is considered armed and dangerous. Nick?
And I have to believe now that they have released that mugshot and identified him by name that Jorge someone may be able to identify him and locate police. Jorge, thank you so much. Now to a major development in a case that's baffled investigators for more than a decade and has been the subject of several true crime series. Tonight, this man, Rex Heuermann, is sitting in jail charged with the murder of 3 women near Gilgo Beach. That's on Long Island. He pleaded not guilty to those killings, and he has also been named the prime suspect in a 4th killing. In all, between 2010 and 2011, 11 people were found dead within just a few miles of each other. News Nation's Sloan Glass joins us live from Massapequa Park on Long Island. Sloan, how close did he live to where the bodies were actually found?
Nick, we are about a little less than 30 minutes from where those bodies were found, and I have to tell you that we just saw officials and I witnessed them taking out what appear to be hunting rifles from Rex Heuermann's home. You can see it behind me. It's that red house. Now, that is where a man lived who was accused of being a serial killer. His spree possibly lasting decades, tormenting victims' families, and this all coming to an end when DNA evidence found on a discarded pizza box officially linked him as the primary suspect.
Rex, did you do it?
The owner of a New York City-based architecture firm, a husband and father of 2, charged in 3 murders and suspected in a 4th.
Rex Heuermann is a demon that walks among us, a predator that ruined families.
A string of killings infamously known as the Gilgo Beach murders. Police on Long Island spent the last 13 years trying to figure out if the murders were connected. It all started in 2010 when 24-year-old Shannon Gilbert went missing. The search for Shannon along the marshy stretch uncovered 11 sets of remains, 9 women, a man, and a toddler. Most of the victims, young women working in the sex industry. The killer, so bold at one point, using a victim's cell phone to taunt her family.
Is this Melissa's little sister?
Heuermann is charged with the murders of Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello, all petite with hazel green eyes. The case went relatively cold for many years, and criticism mounted.
I think that because the women were prostitutes and were objectified as women who were that the police were unable to escape their own limitations in investigating this case. They couldn't do it properly.
Last year, Suffolk County establishing a multi-agency task force, including the FBI and New York State Police.
In a 14-month period, he had over 200 searches pertaining to the Gilgo investigation.
They'd been on his tail for over a year before the arrest at his Manhattan office Thursday night.
He was trying to figure out how is the task force using cell phones to try to figure out what's happening. What are the developments with regard to the task force?
Heuermann's wife's hair was found on 3 of the victims, and DNA left on pizza crust he threw in the trash. All helped connect the dots.
There were 11 bodies found on Gilgo Beach between 2010 and 2011. Heuermann has been charged with killing 3 women, and he's the primary suspect in a 4th. But, Nick, that leaves 7 unsolved cases that investigators are still actively pursuing.
And families still wanting answers about their loved ones. Sloan, one quick question for you. New skeletal remains were found this week. Are they connecting that to Heuermann?
No, not at this time. Now, those remains were found about a 20-minute drive west of Gilgo Beach. We don't have any forensic information yet if those are the remains of a man, of a woman, how long they were in that area for. And the DA was very careful yesterday to just link Heuermann to the crimes that he has been charged for.
Sloan Glass, thank you so much in Massapequa this evening for us. Sloan, I know this remains an active investigation, that you'll stay on top of it. Sloan, thank you. Well, 1 police officer is dead and 2 others are critically injured after a shooting in Fargo, North Dakota. The shooting happened just before 3 p.m. yesterday afternoon. Witnesses say they saw police standing around a car crash before the suspect started shooting at officers. Law enforcement then returned fire, killing that suspect. Well, tonight, the family of a 25-year-old Carly Russell is begging for answers about her disappearance. Search crews in Hoover, Alabama have been on the ground since Thursday night. Now, police say Carly was driving home from work when she saw a toddler wandering alone on the side of the interstate. Now, investigators say she pulled over, called 911 and her family to let them know what was going on. When officers got to the scene, they found Carly's car and belongings, but no sign of her or the child. Carly hasn't been seen since. A $50,000 reward is being offered for her safe return. Well, coming up at 6:30, Carly's mother, Talitha Russell, will be joining us to talk about the search for her daughter and what her family knows so far. Right now, crews are battling a blaze inside a Louisiana chemical factory for the second night in a row. The Dow chemical plant in Plaquemine caught fire after a series of explosions just before 11 last night. The blast prompted an hours-long lockdown, with officials urging residents within a half-mile of the plant to shelter in place. Tonight, authorities say the bulk of that fire is knocked out, but crews aren't finished quite yet. So far, air quality tests haven't found any signs of unsafe chemicals near the site. Well, to quote a famous song, the heat is on. A dangerous heat wave is bringing triple-digit temperatures to much of the American Southwest this weekend, including Phoenix, Arizona, which hit the 110-degree mark for the 16th straight day. That's just 2 days shy of the city's all-time record, which meteorologists predict is likely to break next week. As cooling centers in Phoenix adopt extended hours this weekend, many public pools in Albuquerque are offering free admission, while Las Vegas casinos are reporting visitors are staying inside rather than venturing out into the heat. Temperatures in some parts of the Southwest are expected to remain in the 90s overnight. And in Canada, more than 900 fires are burning in a dangerous fire season that has at times pushed smoke south into the U.S. Canadian wildfires this year have already broken records for total area burned, number of people forced to evacuate, and the cost of fighting the blazes. In British Columbia, smoke jumpers are being deployed. Those are firefighters that parachute from an aircraft down to the fire to help fight the blaze. Taking a live look at Trump's campaign rally in Florida right now, take a look. The former commander-in-chief is expected to take to the stage any moment now. All week, presidential candidates have been crisscrossing the country for weeks, courting voters in as many states as possible. Now we're starting to learn exactly how much each White House campaign is earning and spending on advertisements so far. That number nearly doubling the last presidential election cycle. Now, correspondent Evan Moon is live in the nation's capital with details. Evan, you have to spend big if you want to win big.
That's exactly right, Nick. These candidates know that, and they're in full-blown campaign mode at this point, with just 16 months until another big U.S. presidential election. These 2024 hopefuls from both parties speaking across the country this week. And we've got new reporting, as you said, on some numbers emerging on the hundreds of millions already being spent by these candidates for ad campaigns. And we'll get to all of that. But first, as you said, any moment we are set to hear from the former President Trump tonight at Turning Point USA. That's an event in Florida for young conservatives. And we will bring you some of his remarks when he does speak any minute. But just an hour ago, another GOP hopeful, Vivek Ramaswamy, spoke to the crowd there.
There are people in this race who are deeply upset with me for not criticizing my chief opponent in this race, Donald Trump. And I will tell you, I'm not running against anybody in this race. I am running for our country. That is what we actually need to revive.
And other big-name candidates spoke this week as well at an evangelical event in Des Moines, Iowa, including former Vice President Mike Pence and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis on how they plan to win the White House.
The reason I'm running for president of the United States is because I know we can do better. We can bring this nation back. We can restore the American economy. We can secure our border, and we can stand for the God-given liberties that have always made this country strong and true and great.
I want to get some other people who may not have voted Republican in the past and get them on our team, and we've done that in Florida in record numbers, and I think it can be done across the country. I think we have an opportunity to really capture a lot of voters by representing a platform of common sense and sanity and traditional American values.
And now to that new reporting that shows the 2024 cycle has exceeded $500 million in ad spending already for these candidates. Now, that's nearly double the spending in the same time during the last election cycle that was in 2020. All that advertising needing fundraising dollars. And to that end, we're also looking at new fundraising numbers for the candidates. Tonight marks a deadline to report new numbers to the Federal Election Commission. And as we wait for those reports, this is what campaigns have disclosed so far. President Biden raising $72 million this quarter, followed by Trump's $35 million and DeSantis's $20 million. You see other candidates' numbers there on the screen. It's also interesting to note the candidates who are struggling to garner donor interest. Mike Pence clocking in with only a reported $1.2 million raised this quarter. Now, it's important to note, Nick, that this money comes from super PACs, the DNC and RNC campaigns, and affiliated committees. And candidates need a certain number of donors to even participate in debates. So these figures are really important to all of their campaigns.
And they each keep talking about, Evan, how small donor donations make the difference and how they're each trying to tap into those wallets. Evan Moon reporting to us live tonight from the nation's capital. Evan, thank you. For more on the 2024 race for the White House, we're joined by Niall Stanage, White House columnist with our partner, The Hill. Niall, thanks so much for being here with me this evening. You and I are used to talking in the morning, but we got to talk about this big money that's being raised by some of these presidential hopefuls. Campaign ad spending across the entire field is nearly double the amount spent at this point in the 2020 election, already topping $500 million. What is driving all this need to spend money, Niall?
I'm a little confused by the $500 million figure, Nick. I'd love to know exactly what spending has been calculated there, because that seems a higher number than the number we just gave for the total money raised by campaigns. So I'm not totally clear whether we're involving the midterms from last year in that or not. In any event, there is certainly a lot of spending going on right now. I think the thing that is driving it is the competitive battle for the Republican nomination. That's obviously a key point here. You have Governor DeSantis and former President Trump in particular, obviously being very well-funded candidates, a bit of a battle royale there, and that, I would imagine, is driving some of this spending.
Niall, about that spending, you know, I just joked with Evan in her toss how you have to spend big if you want to win big, but some candidates are even offering to pay people in order to get money. And how is that working, like with Vivek, for example?
Well, he has a number of sort of innovative measures to try to get more money coming into his campaign. Now, he's doing not so badly, but the problem is that he needs 40,000 donors to get onto the campaign or the debate stage, according to the Republican Party's rules. In his case, I think it will be more of a battle to get those number of donors, because remember, he is very wealthy. In the latest figures, he has loaned his campaign around $5 million. That is what is obviously buoying up his total fundraising. But can he get those 40,000 people around the country? That's what we're not totally clear on just yet.
Now, right now, we're taking a live look right now at the Trump US at the TPAC conference there, and we know that Mr. Trump will be speaking at Turning Point in just a few seconds there. What are you expecting to hear him say tonight to this crowd?
This is about as supportive a crowd as you might possibly get, really, for the former president. So I imagine he will mostly be concentrating on the things we always hear from him: a defense of his own record while president, the kind of rhetoric that we are accustomed to hearing on topics from immigration to crime to criticizing President Biden. One key thing to watch, Nick, as it always is how directly he goes after Governor DeSantis. He has attacked the Florida governor quite, I would say, emphatically recently, and I expect that might continue. It certainly seems to be paying off, given that the former president is quite a long way up in the polls.
Niall, I know that we will dip into that when he comes onto the stage, and I would like to talk to you on the other side of that, just to get your reaction to some of the things that he says. But before I let you go, on the flip side, we're also learning how much each campaign is spending as they've raised this money, with former Vice President Mike Pence bringing in some money, trailing a lot of the big names. But talk to me about why some of these campaigns are bringing in more money than the others. What's to blame for this poor haul?
I think really this is the key question, where money does talk, and what it says is how much enthusiasm are you getting from the grassroots? Are people willing to open their wallets to support your candidacy? In that sense, former Vice President Pence's results are really quite an ominous sign for him. That speaks to a distinct lack of enthusiasm, I would argue, for his candidacy. Now, obviously, Trump and DeSantis are in a very different category. They're doing fine. People like Nikki Haley, the former governor of South Carolina, and Tim Scott you had there, they're doing okay because they have a super PAC also supporting them in addition to their campaign donations.
And Niall, I'm looking at this video. Once again, we're at Turning Point. We're taking a peek at that stage. We know that the former commander-in-chief will take to the stage in any moment now, but the video is quite impressive. You know, we're seeing both Air Force One. We see sweeping shots of the nation's capital and of course, the obelisk in the distance there, and we've seen the American flag. Extremely patriotic. This is a crowd that really speaks to Mr. Trump's base, yes?
Yes, very much so, and I think it's the kind of crowd that he revels in speaking to. He's assured of a very positive reception here, Nick. There's no question about that. And this is really the core of the base for the former president. So I'm sure he'll get a rapturous reception here. I think we're beginning to hear some of that right now, in fact.
We are indeed. Now, I'll talk to you on the other side. It looks like Mr. Trump is about to take to the podium. He's walking now on stage. Again, everyone watching right now, this is former President Trump about to speak to the crowd at Turning Point USA, a rather popular forum for Republican candidates, and it's one of those must-do stops for those who are seeking the nomination. Here's the former commander-in-chief.
From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me.
That, of course, is the former commander-in-chief, Mr. Trump, preparing to speak at Turning Point. That is a popular event in Florida. It happens every time there's an election cycle, and it is a must-do for anyone seeking the GOP nomination. We will, of course, get some sound from him, and we will talk about that when we come back. A new study shows that the hazardous train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, polluted the air with high levels of dangerous chemicals. After the break, I'll share my one-on-one interview with Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg about what still needs to be done to stop these train crashes from happening. You're watching News Nation Prime.
Now to a News Nation exclusive. The Nation learning that federal breaking news. Police in Atlanta are searching. We are on the ground tonight across the Texas border. Migrants will face tough consequences. Business owners and neighbors say it is a humanitarian crisis. There are new developments tonight in the unsolved disappearance. Join us now to break it all down. Couldn't ask for a better panel. Great to have you guys, as always. Very smart analysis. Welcome to Elizabeth Vargas Reports. Earning your trust. Earning your trust. Earning your trust every night.
Elizabeth Vargas Reports. Weeknights 6/5 Central on News Nation.
For people with diabetic nerve pain of the feet, it's time for Great Feets. Help get them with Qutenza, the only topical prescription treatment approved to help reduce diabetic nerve pain of the feet. Great Feets, the day-to-day ordinary things that seem extraordinary when your feet feel better. Qutenza is different. One 30-minute application in your doctor's office can provide up to 3 months of diabetic foot pain relief. Qutenza can only be applied by a healthcare provider. Qutenza can cause severe irritation of eyes, mucous membranes, respiratory tract, and skin. Patients may experience pain and burning upon application and following removal of Qutenza. Reduced sensation in the feet may occur. The most common side effects were redness, pain, or itching where Qutenza was applied. If any of these side effects become severe, tell your doctor immediately.
Talk to your doctor about how Qutenza may help reduce pain in your feet so you can get onto your own great feats. Qutenza. Learn more at Qutenza.com.
My most important kitchen tool? My brain. So I choose Nariva Plus. Unlike some others, Nariva Plus is a multitasker supporting 6 key indicators of brain health to help keep me sharp. Nariva. Think bigger.
I got this mountain bike for only $11.
DealDash.com, the fair and honest bidding site. This iPad sold for less than $43. This KitchenAid mixer sold for less than $26. A 4K television for under $2. A MacBook Pro for under $16. This PlayStation 5 sold for less than $1. And brand new cars for less than $900. DealDash.com offers hundreds of auctions every day. All auctions start at $0 and everything must go. And don't forget, we offer a full 90-day money-back guarantee on your first bid pack purchase.
I won these Bluetooth headphones for $20.
I got these 3 suitcases for less than $40.
And shipping is always free.
Go to DealDash.com today and see how much you can save.
There are auctions going on right now. So what are you waiting for?
This is Lumi. This is Lumi deodorant. This is Lumi whole body deodorant. This is Lumi whole body deodorant for pits, privates, and beyond. This is all yours at LumiDeo.com.
Welcome back to News Nation Prime. I'm Nick Smith. Now to East Palestine, Ohio, where a new study indicates that the derailment of a train carrying hazardous materials polluted the air with high levels of a chemical irritant. That study comes from researchers at Carnegie Mellon and Texas A&M universities. The team used a research van to monitor the air during a time when many residents complained of illness, respiratory issues, headaches, and rashes. The researchers found that concentrations of acrolein were up to 6 times the normal level. Acrolein is an irritant to the eyes, skin, and nose and has been linked to increased cancer risk. News Nation spoke to Albert Presto, the lead researcher of the study.
Exposure to acrolein at high enough concentrations can harm human health. We observed concentrations that were at times above health relevant limits.
Now, the study is published in the journal Environmental Science and Technology Letters. Well, there have been several train derailments across the country since the one in East Palestine, including one recently into the Yellowstone River carrying molten sulfur and asphalt, both spilling into the water. I spoke with Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg and asked him what still needs to be done to stop these train crashes from happening, and especially the ones carrying toxic chemicals.
This country still sees derailments in this country on a daily basis. And I think a lot of people didn't realize that that was the case. So now that there is greater public awareness of something we have been working on since this department was created, I think there's a real moment with bipartisan political will to do more.
And Mr. Buttigieg, how would that specifically address situations like the one in East Palestine, Ohio, where residents are still complaining about smelling noxious smells in the air and questioning whether or not their water is safe?
Well, the biggest thing that's helping the residents on a day-to-day basis right now is the work of the EPA. The EPA is holding Norfolk Southern accountable for the costs of the cleanup and making sure that there is testing of air, of soil, and of water. But here on the transportation side, we're working to make sure that we are doing more that could help prevent these kinds of things from happening in the future. Now, that particular derailment is still under investigation. I'm not going to get ahead of the NTSB on that. But some things we already know include the fact that more use of a technology called a wayside defect detector. This is basically a piece of equipment that sits on the side of the railroad track and can tell if a wheel is overheating, could and should be used more widely. We've already put out safety advisories on this to the railroad sector, but again, with help from legislation, could be in a position to do more.
But Mr. Secretary, to be clear, you and your team and the Biden administration have not forgotten about the people in East Palestine, Ohio, correct?
You know, whenever I check in with people who I got to know in East Palestine, I hear two things from them. One, on one hand, they don't want to be defined by this. They're seeking to enjoy their summer, build up their community, make sure people know why they're proud of their community. On the other hand, they want to make sure they're not forgotten. and that they have support not just this year, but as many years as it takes as they seek to get back to normal and make sure that they're safe. That commitment is there from this administration. This administration was on the ground within hours of the derailment and will not be walking away from this community in the years or the decades to come for as long as they need support.
Mr. Secretary, this helped to foreshadow the situation with rail crossings in many small towns across America and their impact. These trains can sometimes cross for hours at a time, a major inconvenience, even stopping some emergency vehicles from moving through the area. Now, the Department of Transportation put aside $570 million for 60 projects in 32 states, but there seems to be thousands of blocked crossing complaints. How did the Transportation Department decide who got the money and for which projects?
So in small communities, and not only in small communities, this is a consistent headache. It is a quality of life issue. It's even a safety issue if you got an ambulance or a fire truck that is stuck at a crossing. And one thing that has increased in recent years is these freight railroad companies turning to longer and longer trains. They can be 2 miles, even 3 miles or longer, which means more time stuck waiting at these crossings. Now, this problem's been around for a long time, but for the first time under President Biden's infrastructure law, we have specific funding to address the worst of these railroad crossings and the ones where communities have brought forward a plan to deal with them. Now, again, there are hundreds of thousands of these crossings around the country, so our focus has to be on the ones where there would be the biggest improvement by either getting rid of it completely with an overpass or an underpass, or making some kind of change in the safety of that crossing. And we kicked off the program announcements. I was in Grand Forks, North Dakota, where the leaders and community members there told me they'd been trying to get rid of that railroad crossing since 1991. We're finally helping them do it with about $40 million. One of the big obstacles has been funding. We have more funding than we used to, but we're also calling on the railroads who ultimately own these railroad right-of-ways most of the time to do their part. And there have been some good public-private partnerships to get more done. We select those projects based on the applications that come in. Again, there's never been dedicated funding for this until now.
Mr. Buttigieg, you also talked about the infrastructure bill a little bit ago. The American Society of Civil Engineers gave the USA a C- infrastructure grade just 2 years ago. What grade would you give our infrastructure now?
Well, the good news is we are improving. The tough thing is it's going to take a while to make up for that backlog. Look, we didn't get to that C- level overnight. It's the result of, I would argue, about 40 years of underinvesting in U.S. infrastructure. But for the first time in a long time, it's getting better, not worse, because President Biden's infrastructure legislation is providing the most funding that we've had since before I was born to improve roads and bridges, rail and transit, airports and ports, ferry systems, everything people need to get to where they're going in this country.
All right, but Mr. Secretary, is that a smiley face on that grade, or is that a B-, a C? What grade would you give it?
Look, I'm only going to be able to evaluate the projects once they're getting closer to completion. We spent our first year just getting that bill passed, and the second year setting up the programs. Now, in this third year, we're seeing the money moving, the dirt flying, and these projects are starting to get done. And so I think over time, that's going to help America make the grade.
We'll, of course, hear more from Secretary Buttigieg later in the newscast, including his plans on cutting down on huge amounts of cancellations and delays in the airline industry, as well as whether he plans to make a White House run in 2024. That's in our next hour of News Nation Prime. Our full interview with the Secretary will be in News Nation Prime's third and final hour tonight. We're tracking breaking news out of Warren, Pennsylvania. I want to take you to a live picture that we have right now. That press conference is happening.
Custody.
Let's listen in.
And is currently at the Pennsylvania State Police Warren Station, where he will be processed. And as I have told you, determination will be made where he will ultimately be housed following his arraignment. It will not be in the Warren County facility. We are still determining where he will go, but that will be taken care of here shortly. I want to thank the residents of Warren County and the surrounding area for their patience through all of this. I know it was challenging for them. I know they were nervous. I know they were scared. But, you know, they remained gracious to all of our people and were very, very helpful to all of us. So I truly appreciate that. There is something else that I want to do here, kind of, so this is a good story to be able to tell you about tonight. I mean, we ended this without anyone else getting hurt. But I also wanted to tell you an interesting story. So as part of our Pennsylvania Police CERT team, one of our members is celebrating his 25th anniversary with the department. He came in this morning and told me that, sir, it's my last day with the department and with CERT. We got to get him today. We chuckled about it, made sure everybody knew, and of course, no one really thought it would happen. He might be the guy you want to talk to about lottery numbers or anything else, because I think he's one of the luckiest people around. Where did I lose him here? Corporal Brian King. I want to tell you a little more to the story about this hero. He was one of the guys that was out here. He's been helping throughout this whole process, trying to make sure we could safely capture Burham. A number of years ago, Brian was seriously wounded on a barricaded gunman call down in Westmoreland County. Lost the vision in one of his eyes as a result of taking a gunshot to the face. He came back from that, not only as a full-duty trooper, but as a full-duty member of our Special Emergency Response Team. Has been an active duty member ever since, and I'm proud to call him my friend. I'm going to miss him here with the department, but I think it was meant to be that you were back here today and here to participate in this capture. And I want to recognize Brian. Thank you.
So what the colonel is not explaining to you is the reason why I was able to do that was because of him. He's humble. He won't admit that, but that's the reason. So I want to recognize him.
So the only other thing I would tell you is that our investigation continues into any assistance that Burham may have received, and discussions will occur in the future with the district attorney's office if we believe we have sufficient evidence to prosecute anyone. And with that, I would be happy to take your questions.
Could you share more about the tip that came in? And we're hearing that, a dog had maybe been barking and the odor from outside. Is that correct? Can you elaborate a little more on
That is. It is, and they went out to check on why the dog was barking, went to the rear of their property. They encountered Burham. I'm told that a conversation occurred, brief conversation, asked him what was he doing there, and he said something about camping, and the owner of the property recognized him, got his wife back they were in a golf cart, got his wife back into the golf cart and drove away from there so that he could immediately contact us as Burham fled into the woods. And the rest of it played out then as I described for you.
That was in the backyard of their home?
Yes.
You've been saying all week, we're waiting until he makes a mistake. What mistake did he make?
He came out into the open and was spotted by an individual. It's in the area, one of the portions of the area that we have been pushing hard. And as I said to you, that's been our strategy all along, is to push him hard, to have him make a mistake. He finally did. It was spotted. You all had a hand in that by getting the word out and making sure that people knew what he looked like, who he was, and that they needed to call us right away. And they did exactly what we asked and what you asked of them. And so he's in custody.
What's his physical condition when you found him? He's been on the run for over a week now.
Looks tired and worn out, as we thought that he might. He was still wearing his prison pants turned inside out. He was dirty, wet.
Do you see him malnourished or dehydrated or anything like that?
I don't know that I would call him malnourished. It's hard to tell from just looking at him. Again, I would characterize his condition as worn out.
Were there words exchanged from him that you can share with us? What did he say?
We're not going to discuss what was said there. Again, he's being taken back to the station. There will be an interview done there, and he'll be processed and incarcerated. He did not have anything in his immediate possession. We will be searching the area to ensure that there is still nothing else there. Over time, he did have access to some equipment that was out there. I told you about bags that were recovered We did link him to those with DNA, and we knew that he had potentially accessed some survival equipment. To kind of close the loop on one of the reasons that we thought he was armed, and he was not, at least when we physically took him into custody again, we'll be searching that area just to make sure there are not any firearms still around that he dropped or hid. But there was ammunition of a couple of different calibers in those bags that we found. Not ammunition that would have fit a weapon that he used in the original kidnapping. And so that was one of the things that led us to be concerned that he may very well be armed.
You said he approached the perimeter and laid down and was captured then from behind. Had officers seen him and forced him to run towards that other side of the
Oh, yeah. Yes, he was being pursued by the officers along with canines. New York State Police had a bloodhound, and Customs and Border Patrol had a search and patrol dog immediately behind the bloodhound. And so, yes, he was being tracked and pushed by a line of tactical members.
Did he attempt to resist or run away again after officers were?
No, he was taken into custody at gunpoint.
Will he be arraigned on the escape charge tonight?
Yes.
Where will that be?
I don't know. Do you have any idea on that? No, we'll have to let you know about that.
Will he be facing any additional charges beyond the escape charge tonight or just that tonight?
That's to be determined yet.
Do you still feel he was being helped along the way?
As I said, that'll be part of the ongoing investigation, and if we can prove that he was, there will be charges filed for that.
Can you talk about the feeling among the search teams now that he's finally, in custody? What are you feeling after this almost 2-week search?
It's a great relief. All of us were always concerned that we would end up with a citizen harmed in some way, or even one of the officers harmed in one way. There's a lot of responsibility when you put a team like this out into the field. And again, knowing that he had ammunition and may very well have a weapon, that he has used a weapon in the commission of crimes before, that he was suspected in another homicide. He really had very little to lose in this whole search that we conducted. And so it would not have been a surprise to me if there had been a violent encounter at the end. And so you're always worried about things like that. So to not have that play out, it's a good day.
Sir, now that he's in custody, can you tell us how many stockpiles there may have been and whether there were stockpiles near where he was ultimately found?
There was not a stockpile in the immediate vicinity of where he was found, but we know that he was through the area where the stockpiles were. They were primarily south of Warren. He had identified 2, and we found a 3rd. And I say he had identified, we had maps that were also in his bag that identified some locations that he had stashed things. Okay. Again, I thank you all for your help in getting the word out to the citizens, and we're just very happy that it's come to a conclusion in this way. Thank you.
That, of course, was Colonel Bivens with the Pennsylvania State Police exiting the podium with applause there after talking about the capture of that suspect, Michael Burham, who had escaped from a Pennsylvania prison. More than a dozen law enforcement agencies were searching for him. And the colonel described him as being worn out when they actually caught up with him. Said that he had his prison pants still on, that they were turned inside out. That Burham was dirty and wet, but he was taken into custody without incident after being tracked by both bloodhounds and canine units. He also talked about how the suspect had little to lose, so he was worried that it could end in a violent confrontation, but it did not. No one was hurt. He also talked about how it's a great relief that once again, he was able to thank the media and the public for staying alert and notifying police as soon as they saw anything. Of course, our own Emily Finn is there covering this live. She will have a report later in the hour and in the next hour, so stay here at News Nation Prime for that. We'll have more after the break. You're watching News Nation Prime on News Nation, news for all America.
When you drive a Ram, summer is more than a season. It's an opportunity to load up on more toys, to stop looking for fun and be the one who brings it. and to make every day even more inviting than the last. Make this the summer you drive a Ram.
During the Ram Make This the Summer event, get 10% below MSRP on all 2023 Ram 1500 Bighorn models.
You can't count on the weather, but you can count on Dish and our reliability guarantee. Should you ever lose signal, contact us and we'll credit back your account.
Hey, Dylan, I want your dad to go out and help you practice your sliding.
The reliability guarantee from Dish.
Gotcha. Yeah, take that. Bruh, I'm fine.
That smack looked bad.
Not compared to the smack that I'm giving you.
You sure you're okay?
You know you're down 200 points, right? Whoa. Lucky she convinced me to get help. I had a concussion that could have been game over.
In actual reality, you've only got one life. Don't mess with your melon.
If you hit it, get it checked.
Nutrisystem is your answer to losing weight at an affordable price. And look at all you get. Delicious breakfast, lunches, dinners, and snacks, including shakes that help you control hunger for up to 3 hours. The meals are color-coded, which makes it so easy.
It's nutritional, it's portion controlled, it has everything you need in a program to help you be successful. I lost 30 pounds with Nutrisystem.
I lost 85 pounds.
Order your Nutrisystem plan right now to get over 50% off. Plus, for a limited time, get a free starter pack with free shakes, free shaker bottle, and free protein bars. A $55 value free. Plus, you'll love our Hearty Inspirations meals that keep you feeling full and satisfied for up to 5 hours.
It's more than a meal plan. You also get free delivery, personal support, and free access to our Numi app. It's affordable, it's convenient, and it works. Get everything you need to lose weight and live healthy right now.
Call or go online to get over 50% off. Plus, get a starter pack free with promo code START.
Meet Gold Bond Healing, a powerhouse lotion that moisturizes, heals, and smooths dry skin. With 7 moisturizers and 3 vitamins, you can pay more, but you can't get more. Gold Bond, champion your skin.
With Life Alert, one touch of a button can get you help fast.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
Don't worry, help is on the way.
With any of Life Alert's 3 emergency systems, help can be summoned immediately, and batteries never need charging.
I was having a stroke, and I was scared to death.
If it weren't for Life Alert, I wouldn't be sitting here today. Life Alert is a lifesaver.
My husband is alive because of Life Alert.
Life Alert is the lifesaver to keep me out of assisted living.
Life Alert saves a life every 11 minutes.
For a free Life Alert brochure, call 1-800-830-1940. That's 1-800-830-1940. Call now. 1-800-830-1940.
Welcome back to News Nation Prime. I want to go to my colleague, Emily Finn, who has been covering this presser from Warren, Pennsylvania. Emily, I know that the colonel just got through speaking. He talked about how the suspect was looking worn out when they actually caught up with him. What do we know right now?
That's right, Nick. The press conference just wrapped up moments ago here. We now have all of the full details about what transpired before they were actually able to track him down. So we know that he was captured in the northeast part of the state. That happened around 5:50 p.m. on Jackson Run Road. So what ended up happening, there was a tip from somebody that called into police. They said that they saw a suspicious individual earlier in the day. That was about 2 hours before the actual capture. So they worked very quickly to be able to track him down. They said that he was still wearing his prison pants. They were inside out when they actually captured him. They said that he was dirty, that he looked exhausted from spending the last 9 days on his own in the wilderness. And when News Nation had a chance to ask them about the equipment that he was using, if he had any assistance, they did acknowledge that in the beginning, they warned residents here and warned people that they thought that he was armed. But when they captured him, he did not have any weapons in his possession. They did find some ammunition in a backpack, but no weapons there. Now, on to the charges here, Nick. We do know that he is still facing those multiple charges for arson, kidnapping, and burglary, all here in Pennsylvania. And he's also that prime suspect in murder and rape cases across the New York border in Jamestown here. but we know that he will be facing additional charges for this escape. Those specific charges are still to be determined, still a lot to develop here ahead of his arraignment. But one of the biggest things that they're discussing at this moment is where he should be taken. Officials here, they just confirmed that that decision will be made after Burham's arraignment, so still deciding what's best for him. Officers are debating if he should go back to the prison that he originally escaped from, or if he should be going somewhere else. Some concerns expressed about that. And Nick, I will leave you with this. This was one last thing that we learned at this press conference. A little bit of a uplifting story amidst all of this tension to try and track down Burham. They shared a story about one of the law enforcement officials that was involved in the search. He was celebrating his last day in his position. He was wrapping up his job for good, and he said, "We have to find him today." And Nick, as we know, that's ultimately what they did. So everything has concluded here with the manhunt, and we will continue to bring our viewers the latest updates once we know the specifics about the additional charges he will be facing moving forward, Nick.
Emily, I'm so glad you mentioned that. I swear I was going to ask you a question about that, but I do have one other question. The Colonel Bivens did say that this continues to be an active investigation. Yes? What are the next steps?
Again, the next steps, he is in custody now, so what they're going to try and do is piece together how he was able to escape, right? We still don't have the answers. You know, they're looking into investigating the employees at the jail. How was he actually able to get out? And then what his movements were throughout the Allegheny National Forest. We know that there was at least 3 different sites where they found equipment, where they found things. Some of them had DNA matches to Burham. So trying to piece together his movements, trying to understand how this even came to be, those are going to be the next steps in the investigation, Nick. And once again, Colonel Bivens thanking the media and the public for their role in helping to identify and keep them alert throughout this process. And he says that, thankfully, a great sigh of relief because no one else was injured. Emily Finn, live for us this afternoon in Warren, Pennsylvania. Emily, thank you so much. Well, do you want to be a millionaire? The Powerball jackpot climbing to the 3rd largest in the game's history. Plus, Mega Millions jackpot is skyrocketing as well. How large are these grand prizes? Powerball's drawing is in a few hours. What are the chances of you winning tonight's jackpot? I want to know. And do you have my cell number if you do win? All right, more News Nation Prime after the break.
Here's the question. Is there a difference? Who right now? How much evidence?
You know what, Leland, that is an excellent question, and one that I really haven't been asked about.
We're going to actually ask tough questions, not of just one side, but of both sides, and our viewers will be better off because of it. What is the message? Why? Why is it important we know the truth?
That's a good question. That's a great perspective and a great question.
We want people to think one of 3 things when they watch the show. I didn't know that, I hadn't thought of that, or that's exactly what I was thinking.
I have type 2 diabetes, but I manage it well. It's a little pill with a big story to tell. I take once daily Jardiance at each day start. As time went on, it was easy to see I'm lowering my A1C.
Jardiance works 24/7 in your body to flush out some sugar. And for adults with type 2 diabetes and known heart disease, Jardiance can lower the risk of cardiovascular death too. Jardiance may cause serious side effects including ketoacidosis that may be fatal, dehydration that can lead to sudden worsening of kidney function, and genital yeast or urinary tract infections. A rare life-threatening bacterial infection in the skin of the perineum could occur. Stop taking Jardiance and call your doctor right away if you have symptoms of this infection, ketoacidosis, or an allergic reaction. And don't take it if you're on dialysis. Taking Jardiance with a sulfonylurea or insulin may cause low blood sugar.
Jardiance is really swell, the little pill with the big story to tell.
We need a small business loan fast.
I got this.
Loan cannon!
There's a better way to get a fast small business loan. Go to OnDeck.com, and if approved, get your funds as soon as the same day. Your loan is on deck.
Family is just very important.
She's my sister, and we depend on each other a lot.
She's the rock of the family. She's the person who holds everything together.
It's a battle, you know, I'm gonna be there.
Keytruda and chemotherapy meant treating my cancer with 2 different types of medicine.
In a clinical trial, Keytruda and chemotherapy was proven to help people live longer than chemotherapy alone. Keytruda is used to treat more patients with advanced lung cancer than any other immunotherapy. Keytruda may be used with certain chemotherapies as your first treatment if you have advanced non-squamous non-small cell lung cancer and you do not have an abnormal EGFR or ALK gene. Keytruda can cause your immune system to attack healthy parts of your body during or after treatment. This may be severe and lead to death. See your doctor right away if you have cough, shortness of breath, chest pain, diarrhea, severe stomach pain, severe nausea or vomiting, headache, light sensitivity, eye problems, irregular heartbeat, extreme tiredness, constipation, dizziness or fainting, changes in appetite, thirst or urine, confusion, memory problems, muscle pain or weakness, fever, rash, itching or flushing. There may be other side effects. Tell your doctor about all your medical conditions, including immune system problems. If you've had or plan to have an organ or stem cell transplant, receive chest radiation, or have a nervous system problem.
It feels good to be here for them.
Living longer is possible. It's true. Keytruda from Merck. Ask your doctor about Keytruda.
Icy Hot Pro starts working instantly with 2 max strength pain relievers. So you can rise from pain like a pro. Icy Hot Pro.
Love was definitely in the air for one Georgia man. Darian Brinkley could not wait to land to show his commitment to his longtime girlfriend, Manita. So he proposed to her thousands of feet in the air as the couple traveled from Atlanta to Cancun. Passengers on the flight came up with a brilliant last-minute plan. When Darian's girlfriend, Manita, exited the plane's bathroom, signs were spread out across an aisle with the words, "Will you marry me?" Joining us to discuss this eventful trip is newly engaged couple Darian Brinkley and Manita Turner. Thank you both for joining us tonight. You know, Darian, I'm already upset with you. You have raised the game to a whole new level for all of us.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, congratulations to you both. I have to ask you, jump right in there, guys. First off, how did you two meet? I need to know.
We met on an online dating app.
Oh, this is so weird. Yes, an online dating app. You know what? I'm happy with the results, so guess what? It doesn't matter.
Well, Manita's smile is saying it all. Manita, I have to ask you, you walk out of the bathroom, you're like, all I want to do is get back to my seat. What were you thinking when you walk out and you see him on one knee?
I didn't know what was happening. It was just such a shock. I couldn't believe that he was able to put that together in such a short time.
A short time, and you were genuinely surprised, it looked like.
It was, yes.
You're like, now how did you do all this? Darian, how did you come up with the idea? What was your original plan for the proposal?
My original plan was actually to get down to Cancun and propose to her on the beach. But as I started showing the ring off to some of the ladies that was en route to Cancun, they really pumped me up to just go ahead and do it because she is a flight attendant as well.
Sure.
So they actually encouraged me to do it while in the air. And I said, you know what? Why not?
Why not? The minute you start showing that ring, they're like, oh, that ring is nice. You better not wait. She wants to show everybody that ring. And Manita, what did you think when you saw that ring?
Oh, it's beautiful. He did an excellent job. I love it.
We're looking at the video now. It seems that everybody was on board for this. I want to ask you guys, though, before I let you go, what's the plan for your wedding?
We're still coming up with that now, so we're taking suggestions.
We are taking suggestions, but it will be a destination wedding, whereas though hopefully as many family and friends can attend, and only thing we want to do is celebrate love, happiness, and joy.
Hey, congratulations to you both. Darian, one last question, though, before I let you go. When you knew Manita was the woman for you, when?
The first time I laid eyes on her, to be honest with you.
Dude, you're going to have me sitting up here crying in the middle of a broadcast. Don't do that to us. Darren, and Manita, go ahead, talk to me.
When she walked in the restaurant to come and greet me, and I seen her walking towards me, I said, this one is the one.
Darren, I love that. Manita, what did you think? When did you know?
Our first date was pretty good. You know, we've been inseparable ever since. So I would have to say the same. You know, I really enjoy him.
Manita, I got to ask, though, because I know your girlfriends then had something to say. What did they think when they first met him?
They liked him. You know, he's fun. He's fun. He's always the life of the party. Never met a stranger. So clearly, as you can see on the plane, he's never met a stranger.
Hey, on behalf of everyone here at News Nation, congratulations to you both. We wish you both a life of love and happiness. Darren, you have completely set the stage for all of us there. Darren and Manita, thanks so much for sharing your story with us. Wishing you all the best.
Thank you.
Sir.
Absolutely. With the next Powerball drawing tonight and Mega Millions drawing on Tuesday, someone could become a billionaire by Monday. Well, the chances of hitting a jackpot 1 in 302 million. You have a better chance of getting struck by lightning. The odds are so insane, you even have a better chance of becoming the president. Well, this Tuesday, the Mega Millions jackpot valued at over $640 million, and the Powerball is jackpot drawing coming in at a sweet $875 million. Both amounts certainly life-changing, and as they say, you can't win if you don't play. Our next hour of News Nation Prime starts right now.